In the late 13th century, Scotland stood on the brink of despair. A proud nation was brought to its knees as King Edward I of England, known as the Hammer of the Scots, set his sights on total domination. Scotland's independence hung by a thread. Edward was a king who believed in absolute control. After the death of Scotland's King Alexander III in 1286, a succession crisis plunged the nation into chaos. Edward seized this moment of vulnerability to claim overlordship of Scotland, forcing its nobles to bow to his authority. But the Scots were not a people to surrender lightly. In 1297, a man named William Wallace emerged as a beacon of resistance. Leading an unlikely army of commoners and clansmen, Wallace achieved a stunning victory against Edward's forces at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. His courage inspired a nation, breathing life into Scotland's fight for freedom. But Edward was relentless. In 1305, Wallace was captured and executed in London. His brutal death meant to extinguish Scotland's hopes. Instead, it fueled a fire that would not be quenched. Amid Scotland's turmoil, a young nobleman named Robert the Bruce was growing up in the shadow of great expectations. Born in 1274 to a family with royal lineage, Robert was a man of dual allegiances. On one hand, he was deeply connected to Scotland. On the other, he was bound by oaths of fealty to King Edward I of England. As the son of a powerful earl, Robert was deeply involved in Scotland's political intrigues. The vacuum left by King Alexander III's death created divisions among the noble families, each vying for power. Robert's family was among the claimants to the Scottish throne. When William Wallace was executed in 1305, it sent shockwaves through Scotland. For Robert, the loss was personal. Wallace's unwavering defiance against Edward left an indelible mark on Robert's conscience. He realized that Scotland needed not just a leader, but a unifier. Robert knew that the road ahead would be perilous. To defy Edward meant risking his life, his family, and his legacy. But it also meant fighting for a cause greater than himself, the freedom of Scotland. So in 1306, Robert the Bruce made a fateful decision. He would claim the Scottish crown and lead his people in their fight for independence, no matter the cost. After being crowned King of Scots in 1306, Robert faced an uphill battle. The English army under Edward I launched a relentless campaign to crush his rebellion. Edward's forces struck swiftly. After a series of defeats, Robert was excommunicated by the church and forced into hiding. His allies were captured and executed, while his own family endured imprisonment. His wife Elizabeth was held in harsh conditions, and his brothers were brutally killed. Yet even in the face of such overwhelming loss, Robert refused to give up. With few supporters left, Bruce is believed to have fled west, possibly to the islands off the Scottish coast, or even to Ireland. It's during this period that a well-known story begins to appear in Scottish tradition. According to legend, while hiding in a cave, Bruce saw a spider trying to spin its web. The spider failed several times, but it didn't stop. Eventually, it succeeded. That simple act is said to have given Bruce a sense of renewed determination. If a spider could keep trying after repeated failure, then so could he. The death of Edward I in 1307 marked a turning point. With the feared Hammer of the Scots replaced by his less decisive son, Edward II, Robert saw a chance to rebuild his campaign. Adopting unconventional tactics, Robert and his men launched a fierce campaign to reclaim Scottish castles and territories held by the English. His hit-and-run strategy struck fear into the hearts of his enemies, while his leadership earned the unwavering loyalty of his followers. By 1313, Robert's army had regained control of much of Scotland. His confidence grew, and it was clear that a decisive confrontation with England was inevitable. The fate of Scotland would soon be determined on the battlefield. Edward II, determined to crush Robert's rebellion, assembled a massive army to march into Scotland. By 1314, he had set his sights on Stirling Castle, a critical stronghold and symbol of English power in the region. Its garrison was under siege by Robert's forces, and the English king vowed to break the siege at all costs. The morning of June 23, 1314, marked the beginning of one of the most famous battles in Scottish history. The English army, numbering an estimated 16,000 to 20,000 troops, had arrived to crush Robert the Bruce's rebellion once and for all. Opposing them was Robert's army of about 6,000 men. The battlefield near Bannockburn was carefully chosen by Robert the Bruce. A natural bottleneck between the River Forth and the forest restricted the movement of the larger English army, giving the Scots a strategic advantage. The battle began with a dramatic clash on June 23rd, when an English advance unit encountered Robert the Bruce himself. Riding into battle, Robert faced an English knight, Sir Henry de Bohun, who charged at him with his lance. In a move of sheer audacity and skill, Robert dodged the attack and struck de Bohun down with a single blow of his axe. This act of bravery electrified the Scottish troops, boosting their morale. Edward II's poor leadership and lack of experience became evident. The marshy terrain further hindered his troops, while Robert's men fought with remarkable coordination and tenacity. Despite the odds, the Scots held firm, turning the tide of the battle. After Bannockburn, Robert the Bruce was no longer just a rebel king. He was the undisputed leader of an independent Scotland. The victory sent shockwaves through England and boosted morale across Scotland. Though Edward II had been humiliated, he refused to recognize Bruce as king. For the next several years, the Scots continued their campaign, launching raids into northern England and even into Ireland. Finally, in 1328, after years of war, England formally recognized Scotland's independence through the Treaty of Edinburgh-Northampton. Robert the Bruce's decades-long struggle had paid off. He had achieved what no other Scottish king before him could: freedom from English rule. With Scotland's independence secured, Robert the Bruce spent his final years strengthening the kingdom he had fought so hard to protect. He worked to rebuild the Scottish economy, re-establish order, and prepare the crown for his son, David. But Bruce's health was failing. Likely suffering from a serious illness, possibly leprosy, he died on June 7, 1329, at the age of 54. He is regarded in Scotland as a national hero,